discussing what is coping skills, the possible coping strategies, healthy versus unhealthy, and coping affirmations, and then coping as a life philosophy. So, what does it mean to cope? To be able to cope, it means that we need to be able to make an effort to manage the situation that we have appraised as being potentially harmful or stressful. The last couple of slides will just pull this together with previous discussions we've had. So this definition of coping has actually three key features. First of all, the coping involves a certain amount of effort and planning. It does not assume that the outcome of coping will always be positive. It emphasizes coping as a process that's taking place over time. It isn't a switch that you put on or off, but it's probably more of a process towards moving to a healthier coping strategy. So when we talk about coping strategies, they can pretty much be divided into three categories, with one of the category having two subcategories. So first of all, we have the problem focused coping strategies. So the problem focused coping strategies can either be outer directed, meaning you're trying to change the situation or the behavior, the circumstances, and the outside world. Where the inner directed, that means you're trying to improve or acquire a certain new skill set to be able to change what's happening inside of you. And then we have emotionally focused. That's where you're trying to manage to cope, to change your emotions, how you feel on the inside. Where physical exercise will help you with that, and meditation will calm you on the inside. Expressing your feelings, seeking social support, or other interactions that can maybe reduce your emotional situation at that moment. And then thirdly, we have avoidance, which actually should not be on this, but it is something that a lot of people do. And with avoidance, we use other mechanisms to try and avoid the situation. Something like oversleeping, as an example. Even knowing sleeping is a good thing, now we are oversleeping, and that causes us to avoid the situations that's happening in the awakened world. So sleeping is something like alcohol as well. It's a avoidance strategy where we try to escape the situation and we cannot really deal with the situation. So we try to avoid it. So people are more likely to engage in problem-focused coping when they feel there's something that they can do about the problem or the challenge that's in front of them. When the problem or challenge appears to be beyond their control, they usually go to emotional focused coping strategies. So if you know about these four coping strategies, it's beneficial for you already. Then we have coping scales. This is not that much relevant. It's just making the point that we've already made before. Task coping is the same as problem solving. Now, with the coping skills, research on coping skills led to the conclusion that is most adaptive to coping with life challenges by taking an active, self-reliant, meaning you change approach that includes planning and problem solving. So this entails that if you're late for class, not saying, but it's the traffic's fault, but rather saying, it's my fault. I will do better. I will wake up sooner, earlier in the morning. So it's self-reliant, trying to not put too much responsibility on someone else to make the change for you. It is least adaptive to cope by avoiding and denying the challenge or by responding in an impulsive manner, which usually makes it worse. Assessing your coping helps in two ways. First of all, if you want to be more flexible and to choose coping response that will best in the given situation. Secondly, the process will go a long way towards reinforcing your feelings of self-confidence and control. So if you are able to cope with the situation, it's easier for you to, um, if you take a problem focused coping, it's easier for you to develop the self confidence. So at this moment, if you feel there's something that's beyond your control and you remember, but you've done something similar in the past and you thought that was beyond your control and you could have done that. So maybe you can do this as well. So the goal is not as much as to choose the correct coping response, but it's more of maintaining a coping attitude. So, and that's really characterized by thoughtfulness, problem solving, and self confidence. That you can actually deal with this, whatever this problem is. So, unhealthy coping strategies is something like drugs, alcohol use, overeating, procrastination, sleeping too much or too little. Even knowing sleeping too little gives you more time, it saps your capacity so that you cannot deal with the next day situations as adequately. So many times we lie to ourselves as well, saying, but no, I had to stay awake till very late to finish this. But if you went to bed earlier, it would have been easier to catch up the next morning. So just knowing that sometimes it happens that we lie to ourselves and we think we are coping. Meanwhile, we're actually only sabotaging our own effort. So social withdrawal, self-harm, aggression, impulsive coping skills that we also try to manage the situation, but we do it so impulsively that it actually just makes things worse. Then healthy coping strategies like exercising, talking about your problem, healthy eating, looking for professional outside help, relaxation, trying to deep briefly, using social support, admitting the difficulty that you have, and the problem solving techniques that you can also find online or in the resources that we provided. Okay. Some coping affirmations, and I'll explain why this is important in a moment, is that I'm responsible and in control of my life. Circumstances are what they are, but I can choose my response towards them. Life has its challenges and its satisfactions. I enjoy the adventure of life. Every challenge is an opportunity for me to learn and to grow. I accept the mountains and the valleys of life. I love to accept myself the way I am. I'm able to discover meaning in my life. It's never too late to change. I'm making progress one step at a time. I'm committed to overcoming challenges. I'm learning to be comfortable in and by myself. I'm learning to enjoy my joys. I'm learning to be at peace when I'm alone. I respect and believe in myself. It's okay to be my authentic self around others. I'm willing to accept my mistakes and learn from them. I'm willing to allow others to help me. I'm able to relax and let go. I'm learning to accept those things I cannot control. I'm a valuable human being. Okay. So if we want to adjust to a life philosophy of coping, copers refuse to be passive and helpless to avoid. They look for ways to actively have control in their lives. It also means that they're optimistic, thinking that there's always a solution. I just have to find it. Optimists are less likely to use avoidant coping strategies. Optimists also focus on achieving their goals in the face of hindrances and distractions. They know they can achieve it. Coping attitude is a philosophy that says life will always be the way you want it to be, but your coping skills can help you to make the best of it, even knowing life isn't always going to be the way you want it to be. Okay. So that is what we had to talk about with the coping strategies. I want to remind you of previous discussions we had. So we said the self-concept we have is the overall idea we have, which draws us our self-image, which leads to our self-esteem. If you want to increase your self-esteem, you need to increase your self-image, which means you'll have to make your self-concept more accurate. To do that, we need to ask a self-knowledge question, and that gets the answer from the self-efficacy. The self-efficacy answer is always yes or not yet. And then that leads the answer back to the self-knowledge and makes the self-concept more realistic. Okay. So, and a practical example of this is, so my self-concept is that I'm male Okay? And I am therefore unable to use the washing machine. Okay, a typical stereotype. Okay. Now, my self-knowledge question should be is that is it possible for me to use a washing machine? Okay. And the answer should be yes or not yet. Okay. And then a positive problem-focused coping strategy would be to go to the washing machine and to try and use it. And an emotional focused coping strategy will be, sorry, problem focused inside coping strategy will be that worst case scenario, there will be more bubbles than water streaming out of the room. So just realizing that the worst case scenario is still dealable. It can still cope with the worst thing that can possibly happen. And that brings the answer back and makes the self-efficacy more realistic. That even knowing that I've never done this before, it's possible for me to learn how to do this. And my gender has nothing to do with it. Okay. Now, taking the next step, we've said that with stress, you can see it like a teeter-totter, where you have this, your self-efficacy, your ability to cope, and the demand that's placed on you. So if your self-efficacy is heavier, the stressful event will be shot over the mountains and away, and you will experience no stress. But if the demand is heavier than you, it will shoot you into this alligator's happy face and you will have difficulty. You will have a stressful situation. So first of all, the question is, will you be able to cope? Are you heavy enough with your self-efficacy? And secondly, you can also reduce the demand. If I can say, okay, but with the washing machine, let's just try using it without soap. Let's see what happens. Let me try using the washing machine with just a little bit of clothes inside. Let's see what happens. Maybe I should look at the YouTube video before I do this. So in this way, I'm actually reducing the demand. So with coping, this is what's happening. You're looking at your self-efficacy, and this will increase your self-confidence and new tasks as well. If you can do washing, you can maybe do ironing as well. Maybe even cooking. You can maybe even service your own bike, your own car, your own plane, your own helicopter. Maybe you can do these things and you just don't know it yet. So this is the coping we're talking about. Okay. I hope this made sense. Have a lovely day.